Welcome to A Heart for Home. Where are we today? We're at the Morris Family Garden. Lance, why is gardening so important? We're going to answer that question today. Jamie has invited us over to his house. He's going to be joining us in the next segment and show us some do-it-yourself techniques. He's got herbs, vegetables, all these things that are starting to grow. You're probably wondering, well, why is this so important? Well, on the show, we discuss all things wellness, fitness, nutrition. To know the source of where your food comes from is entirely important. Right? God placed Adam and Eve in a garden. So to understand how you yourself can grow, whether you have a very small plot of land or a large acreage of land, these are do-it-yourself techniques that you too can do at home. All right? We'll be right back with Mr. Morris, guys. Stay tuned. Guys, welcome back to A Heart for Home. As promised, Jamie Morris is joining us now. He's invited us into his home, more specifically into his garden. Jamie, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell the audience what we are looking at in this beautiful garden, because this is actually more advanced of a project. We started very, very basic. I don't want to say basic for us.
Yeah.
But what had you get started gardening?
Tell you what, I just wanted to know what I was eating. I wanted to grow what I was eating. I needed to know that everything that was going into my mouth was good for me. No other chemicals added, my fruits, my vegetables. So I decided to just go for it, just grow my own stuff. And I never was experienced with this stuff, but I had this feeling that I needed to make those changes for my own health, because really my health, even though I felt like I was in great shape, internally I didn't feel like I was in great shape. So when you don't know what you're eating, when you're buying stuff from stores and you not exactly know what's going into your body, you just need to make those changes when you can't figure out what's going on with your body. So ever since I started gardening, my health has improved. Everything, my fitness, even my mental clarity has changed. So now it's just a love that I have. It's not just a hobby, it's just a way, now it's part of my life. It's a way of life, like the Lord intended. So here we got some new organic soil mixer. And what I'm going to do is mix this in with the earth that I have here already. So basically that's what we're going to start with today.
Now what's interesting, I like how Jamie talked about this, is that you didn't start as a gardener. You weren't raised in it. Mm-hmm. This is something one day it's like, I need to learn where my food is coming from. More importantly, can I be involved in this and engaged? And too often, I think a lot of people see this whole concept of gardening and say, I don't have the space, or I don't have the time. And the whole thing is, you start to find there's a therapy that goes along with gardening. Now, this wasn't actually the first project or how it started. How did it start? What was the first project? Was it a more smaller scale than this?
Yeah, as you can see over there, I built a raised garden. This is an elevated garden because we're taking the nutrients from that's already in the ground. But over here, as you can see these bags of soil builder, I actually started in that box, that raised garden, and I just threw some things in there and see how it went. And the Lord just provided, and it grew. And I was just, it's just been amazing. It just, it changed everything. So it's just been an amazing transition to now I want to grow an abundance of vegetables, because eventually these vegetables are going to go to other places other than my belly. They're going to go to those that are in need, because I'm going to have, these are just two of my gardens. I have two other gardens over in the town garden. So all these vegetables are not just going to be for me and my family, they're going to be for other families in need.
It's interesting. He's a sower of seeds, ladies and gentlemen. What I find fascinating is that you can start at any time. It's not too late to learn. Use with what you have, and then obviously the Lord starts to provide more. So with the basic thing, and I think this is important for people to know, is that you made a lot of mistakes, because there's a learning curve with all of us. Now, it's great when we make these mistakes, because through experience we learn, but then we can help pass that on to someone else as we teach and say, hey, maybe I went a little crazy with sowing the seeds. Is that what happened? You just threw a whole bunch of seeds out? It needs space.
Oh, yeah. And it is. It's like learning life through the Lord. You stumble sometimes. You learn from those mistakes. The Lord teaches you, hey, this is my instruction that I gave you. If you don't want to follow this instruction, you're going to go to either side. You're not going to stay on that path. So that's what I humbled myself. I realized what I needed to do and follow those instructions. And now my plants are growing. They're healthy. They're reaping great. I'm reaping great crops.
What's some of the stuff that you've grown so far? What were some of the initial things you planted?
We got zucchini, we got some squash, I have some tomatoes ready to go. We've had some really delicious basil, which is just, we've been doing the mozzarella and some basil with a little balsamic drizzle on some bagel chips. It's just been a nice little snack that we have. So, and it's all fresh. So it's just even more delicious. And like I said, when you're eating, you just know it.
He's turning this into a culinary show, ladies and
yeah.
gentlemen. What I think is amazing is you really start to be engaged and involved, and that's what we want to help people understand. Is that, you know, something you might not have an interest in. You might think, gardening's not for me, and then you start to do it. Number one, it's therapeutic.
Yes.
Because you start realizing there's peace. You start understanding where stuff is coming from. Your hands are in the earth. You can actually see stuff come to fruition. Right? We sow the seeds, God gives the increase. So all of a sudden, you start to see vegetables and fruit sprouting, and you're like, wait a minute, I partook in this. But what's really cool is to actually walk people through this process. So again, the elevated garden bed you see has already produced vegetables. We wanted to show the audience what it's like to kind of start from scratch and just kind of take you through a process. Throughout the time, we're actually going to show you over time lapse this concept starting from basic and then growing as time goes on. So Jamie, thank you so much. We're going to keep on going. We're going to show the audience of actually how to do this, not just talk about the garden. You're going to join us getting in and getting dirty. So we'll be right back, guys. Stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome back to A Heart for Home. As promised, we're going to get our hands dirty right now. First, we're going to tell you some of the basics that you need. So there's certain tools before we get into how you've constructed this garden bed that you need to start, that you would suggest based on the land that we're using. So Jamie has a pretty good plot of land, but we're only focusing right now on this garden bed that he's created. Now, the bigger purpose of this, because you guys just see the starting point, is actually a greenhouse, correct?
Yes.
So it's interesting, it started just with basic wood. So explain how you've actually laid this part out so far.
Okay, I just wanted to make a basic rectangle, which it provides a good solid foundation. Everything's in line, right corners. Like I said, it's structurally sound because like any foundation, any building, usually it's rectangular, square. You lay that foundation and everything just builds up from there. So that's the concept. Eventually, where you see these posts, I'm going to use conduit, electrical conduit pipe, and I will make an arch on each of these posts, and then I'll lay clear plastic down where we can still get in some light, and we can still have some protection from different kinds of bugs that may attack or want to get into our garden.
It's a greenhouse concept. Simplified. You don't need glass and all the other crazy stuff. He's simplifying it. So there's ways to improvise to make this so it fits what you're doing. Let me ask you a question. I noticed in the first garden bed you did elevated. Is there any reason this time you chose a flattened one with the ground?
Well, I wanted to use the natural nutrients that was in my plot of earth here, because we still have some good vitamins. Some certain areas are more dry. They're not going to have as much nutrient stuff for the plants. So I wanted to make sure that, as you can see here, I bought some. This is soil builder. So we're going to infuse my ground with some of this good soil, which contains stuff. It's worms and lobsters, crab shells, kelp, some bark, dehydrated manure, peat moss, and a lot more cow manure.
Sounds like a party.
Yeah.
Now I've also noticed that it's organic. Any reason that you chose organic? Should people choose organic? Do you have a preference yourself?
Oh, I absolutely organic. Like I said, you look at these ingredients and you know what's in these ingredients. Where sometimes you buy some of these other bags, there's all these ingredients that you can't even pronounce. And my rule has always been, if I can't pronounce it, I don't want to eat it. So that's just how I go.
Yeah.
So everybody has their choices. You want to go to this place, that place, and you got all these different yellow, red, different dyes and stuff, and you don't know what a lot of these things are. Hey, just avoid them. At least with here, I know. Hey, soil, water, manure.
Simple is good. Simple is good. It's my favorite. So what tools do you suggest people start with? Obviously, based on what we're going to be working with today, which is the start of a greenhouse, What do you need to break up the earth? Obviously, you saw us in the opening segment with the shovel. That's needed. What do you have here? Hoe?
Here we got a hoe here. So this is basically, I have my little fork area here, and I got something to drive into the ground a little more. Got a little weight to it. So all I'm doing basically is just breaking this up. I don't want to get too, I just want to mix it around to where the earth is nice and soft. So I soften up the earth, and then if I get some roots, sometimes you're going to fall with some roots, and you'll have some weeds and stuff like this. You can use this part, and you just basically, you can get some of these different things out of your garden that are basically going to interrupt the growth of your plants. They'll get in the way. They'll, basically strangle some of your good crops. So you want to get those things out. And then, like I say, we're going to break this up. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this to this broken up soil, and then we're going to just mix it all around. So now this is infusing into this and giving some more good nutrients for your plants.
It's like a garden pie, everyone. It's interesting. It's stuff that grows up, tries to choke out the plants. I know I read a parable about that somewhere, but I think this is a good concept. Again, wherever you're at, you can start with something smaller. It doesn't require a whole bunch of stuff. It might seem like a lot. Basically, you need an area to grow. You need some basic tools, and then you need some soil. Again, in certain environments, because I travel throughout the country, Vegas is a lot different than New Jersey. And so again, California is a lot different than Florida. So based on the environment that you're growing in, keep that in mind. If you're growing in a desert, you're going to have a difficulty with certain soils. So you have to actually find ways to effectively address that. Here, we have much better weather, different climate, we have humidity. These are things to take into effect. If you want more of a controlled environment, you can start doing something indoors. Yes. My parents, in fact, started growing tomatoes on a balcony, right? Very simple potter plant, but it shows that, wait a minute, I can grow something. And that's actually how you started, not with tomatoes, but growing on an elevated thing, and then you started to see something sprout up, and what? You needed more space. So from this process of actually starting to till the earth, mix the soil in, what's going to come after this?
Well, like I said, actually what I'll do is I'll just start dumping some of the soil. So, just a basic, just dump this out.
And guys, you can see the contrast between the current soil that we're doing here and then the organic mix that's going on top. So again, even if you don't have nutrient-dense ground that you're working with, the soil makes a much improved environment because the soil really is a huge capacity of what you're growing. Jamie and I were talking about this off camera, is in reality a lot of what you grow, what you have access to in a food store, and what I believe organic is better because you know what's in it. When you grow it yourself, you know the organic components of what you're putting in, not the extra chemicals that make stuff shelf stable. So it's a lot different when you're growing your own product. You know from start to finish, literally garden to table, what it took, what you used to grow with, the water, the tools that were used, and what you're actually growing. So we're going to debag some of this stuff, and we're going to be right back for the next segment. We're going to show you what we're going to do. Guys, if you have any questions, hang with us. Hey guys, thanks for joining us. As you can see, after our hard work, you see the soil being infused with the earth. And this is the perfect thing that we want done before we start going into plants and actual planting of this. So this is how it should look. You see everything's nice and naturally blended. It's relatively flat. We're going to continue to flatten this out. What are we going to actually be planting here, sir?
I think we're going to do some tomatoes today. I got an abundance of tomatoes. So I'd like to, actually half of this is just going to be all tomatoes. So yeah, we have some cherry tomatoes, we have some Roma tomatoes. So I just wanted to see what worked the best in my area because Jersey tomatoes are famous. I don't know if you know, in the Northeast, everybody loves Jersey tomatoes, so I'm very excited to plant tomatoes. Not to mention, I want to make my own sauce, so I got the basil. I'll grow some more. I'm talking about making some tomato sauce. We got the fresh basil, some oregano, some thyme, just having fun with it.
You didn't even realize this was a cooking show. He's gonna plant the tomatoes, I'm gonna eat them. So guys, as you join us, you're gonna see us actually planting this. We wanted to show you this product first in regards to infused soil. So we have a flat, relatively flat ground, and then we actually are gonna see us planting the different plants in regards to spatial relation and things like this. So we're gonna show you this as time goes on, all right? We're gonna be right back, stay tuned. Hey guys, you probably noticed a change in the bed and what we're doing. So first, Jamie actually had us build little trenches. That's actually where we're stepping. So these mounds that you see, which very easily, he actually used a rake as a measurement tool in between each of these things. So as we were doing it, these mounds, you switch the direction?
Sure.
No. I mean, so it's flat. Yes, it's about a foot apart into each of these flattened off beds. The lower part, the trench, is what we actually step between. So in all of these beds, what Jamie's currently doing is actually measuring with a finger. It's about a foot apart. So again, he's using the rake as the measuring tool. He's slowly making holes with his fingers. That's where each of these things are going to be planted. So you don't need advanced measuring tape. The same tools that you're using to make the garden is actually going to help you measure it. And the reason they need space, as Jamie learned the first time, because they'll choke each other out. So after we did that flattened bed, you do a little trench like thing so you actually can walk in between your plants, mounds, water it, so everything's staying together, otherwise it's going to flake off. You did a few rounds. How many rounds of watering did you do?
About 4 or 5. But yeah, the more water, more nutrients. Obviously, like we drink as humans, we need water. These plants need water. So every day I'm coming out in the morning I come out, I water them. Afternoon, water them. Nighttime, I water them. So, and that's everything that I've grown has just been coming up so fast.
Amazing. Next, guys, you're going to see us actually start to plant some of these things. All right, so stay tuned. As you guys can see, the garden looks very different from when you started with us today. So just taking you through some of the steps. I'll let Mr. Morris explain of where we're currently at right here.
Oh, we're ready to go. We built up our mounds. We have our areas that we can walk between. We have our spacing. With here I did around 12 inches of space. Some of the other crops you want to give a little more space because of how they spread. You want to have room. You don't want to suffocate them. During the growing time, I will be pruning these to keep them back, making sure oxygen can get in there because that's what they need. If it's too much overgrowth, not enough oxygen, and some of the fruits, vegetables will not survive, so they need plenty of air. One of the lessons I learned about growing them too close, doesn't give them enough oxygen, doesn't give them enough light, because if you have too many leaves now to get into where the nutrients go in, if you're not getting that oxygen, you're not getting the light, then obviously you're not getting good vegetables and fruits. So as you can see, we have quite a few here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 18, 24. Got tomato plants. Believe that is cherry tomato. We have some kale. And I believe we have a couple melons.
Wow. I can't wait to see what develops from this. And as you'll notice, guys, from what we started with today, you had a foundational built that Mr. Morris had done. From there, we infused the earth with the soil, made it flat. We then went into building small walkable trenches. The plants are not in the trenches, that's where we walk. They're on the mounds, spaced about maybe 12 inches, 8 to 12 inches apart. You see we have 3 specifically different things: kale, cherry tomato, not quite your melon, but they are. We've been constantly watering everything to make the dirt harder. To actually plant, we did small little holes. This way there were marker boundaries. That's how there's an evenness to how we planted. The next step that you guys won't see today, but you'll see the finished process, is going to be when the covering is actually applied to this, making it pretty much a greenhouse. In the next segment, we're going to interview Jamie. We're going to see some of the fruits of his labor, of what's come from the garden, and you too can actually have this. Even if you don't have this amount of land, a fraction of this, you'd be very surprised at what you can actually grow. So stay with us. We've got one segment left where you can actually hear some of Jamie's story, all right? We'll be right back, guys. God bless.
God bless.
Hey guys, welcome back. As promised, it's important to see the fruits of one's labor. So as promised, Jamie has shared what the smaller garden, not the garden we just planted, has grown. So we actually have here zucchini, squash, and basil. The zucchini, this is growth in the matter of weeks with no artificial preservatives, nothing crazy, just the earth, soil, water, loving, tender care, and most importantly, prayer. Did we forget to tell you that? We prayed over the garden after this stuff was actually planted.
Amen.
Basil as well, which smells amazing. So I'll definitely be trying some of that later on, as you guys can see. Now, one of the reasons Jamie early on stated is that he started this garden was because of health reasons. Obviously, it's gone far reaching than that. It obviously help those in need and provide food for his family. So why don't you discuss some of the initial health issues that you've had, and what have you seen since garden therapy and also eating cleaner? What have you seen for yourself?
Absolutely. Well, first off, I was born with congenital hypothyroidism, so I've always struggled with my health and wellness. Usually when I get ill, it really takes me a while to recover from that. So, I mean, for years after years, taking medication and just eating whatever, even when I thought I was eating clean or eating healthy, this is all store-bought stuff, and I just, I'd feel somewhat better when I tried to eat well, and like I said, it's just, you're relying on the supermarket to give you the food that is supposed to be, nutritious for you. And as we find out a lot of times, some of the food that we eat it doesn't do it for us, energy levels, it's just sleeping, moving our bowels, gut issues. And I had a really big problem with gut issues for quite a long time, bloating. And then, through time, you realize certain foods are causing a lot of these issues, especially gut issues, which then really just spread throughout your body. So I think that maybe the gut issue was probably my biggest issue that just spread throughout my body. And I noticed, even when I switched from regular, supermarket, fruit and vegetables that you just buy at the store, I started switching over to organic, right? So even when you go but what happens when you buy from the store, the organic, everything is like this big, and then basically it just rots within days, which it's supposed to do. It's not supposed to preserve for a long time, which, as you notice, a lot of your store-bought stuff, it lasts 3-4 weeks sometimes, and you're like, wow, it's cool, right? No, it's not natural. It's not supposed to last that long. And obviously buying from the supermarket, it costs a lot to buy organic stuff. To eat healthy, you have to spend a lot. So why am I spending a lot? Basically, the wood I got here was donated to us. So I get donated wood. We got donated seeds from Ray Vidal from the Cat Foundation.
Sowing Seeds Project.
Sowing seeds, right? So I got all these free seeds. And then now it's under my control when I eat these things, when they're ready to be taken, and anything that may be ripe, I can have for myself and my family, and the rest will go to people who need that. Those who need will have the opportunity to eat the fruits of my labor.
They have healthy food. I mean, that's a lot of the things that we've seen in different places when we've worked with those in need, is you literally have food deserts, as they're known. In this country, we're one of the most overfed but undernourished, which is quite fascinating when you get engaged with how you're eating and just and learn. Because again, when you have access to these things and you start understanding how to grow, what food actually does, I never thought I'd live in a time where you actually had to explain to people what food is. I mean, what actual food is. We're seeing more and more of a generation that doesn't understand that food does not come from the supermarket. And I think it behooves us, for our own health reasons, to really become more engaged in what we're putting into our bodies, how we can help each other, educating those. And again, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg if you can't afford organic. I understand that. Most importantly, prayer of your food. Number two, if you have the ability, even if you have an apartment, grow something on the balcony, grow something indoors. It doesn't take a lot, but that first step can really go a long way in benefiting your health and you learning more about what you're putting into your body and therefore what's going out of it. And Jim, you mentioned gut issues, which some of you might be struggling with right now, which is why you see such an influx of probiotic formulations that are being given to people. Why is that? Well, a lot of the preservatives and stuff that we've put in the food over the course of time has messed up people's GI tracts. So the natural flora, fauna, all the things, probiotics that we have naturally growing in our guts has been eradicated by antibiotics in the food. And so this is one of the reasons that people are having trouble with digestion and processing. And so getting back to food that doesn't have this stuff on it, people are starting to notice they're feeling better. And digestion and excretion is a huge part, obviously, of you metabolizing stuff and being able to function normally. So some of you might be struggling with that, so look into some different things that you can do, probiotics, kombucha, kimchi. There's a lot of things that you can naturally get, fermented food, that can actually help with this. What we'd recommend is taking back control of some of the things that you can do on your own property in the privacy of your own home. And the fruits of your labor you can definitely see firsthand. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. I want to thank Jamie for allowing us to come to his house, to his garden, to participate. If you guys have questions, please, you can always contact us, and we'd be happy to answer the questions that you have. As always, stay healthy and close to the Lord. We'll see you next time on A Heart for Home. God bless.
God bless everyone.
By my name will humble themselves and pray. Seek my face and turn from thy wicked ways. I hear from heaven and heal the land.